Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a Black History Month spotlight on this gentleman, the late great Langston Hughes, who was also born in the month of February, so it's very appropriate. But before we get into Langston Hughes' life, let's get into the intro and I'll be back to you. James Mercer Langston Hughes was an American poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, and columnist born February 1st, 1901 in Joplin, Missouri. Langston Hughes was a prominent poet, writer, and activist during the Harlem Renaissance, a cultural movement that flourished in the 1920s and 1930s in the Harlem borough of New York City. Hughes is known as one of the earliest innovators of the literary art form called jazz poetry. He famously wrote about the Harlem Renaissance period as that period where the Negro was in vogue, which was later paraphrased as when Harlem was in vogue. Langston Hughes grew up in a series of Midwestern small towns. His father left the family soon after he was born and later divorced his mother, Carrie. The senior Hughes traveled to Cuba and then Mexico, seeking to escape the enduring oppression of blacks in the United States. After his parents' separation, Hughes' mother traveled seeking employment, and Langston was mainly raised in Lawrence, Kansas by his maternal grandmother, Mary Patterson Langston. Through the Black American and tradition and drawing from the activist experience of her generation, Mary Langston instilled in her grandson a lasting sense of racial pride. Imbued by his grandmother with a sense to help his race, Langston Hughes identified with neglect and downtrodden black people all of his life and glorified them in his work. He lived most of his childhood in Lawrence, and in his 1940s autobiography, The Big C, he wrote, "I was unhappy for a long time and very lonesome living with my grandmother. Then it was that books began to happen to me, and I began to believe in nothing but books and a wonderful world in books where if people suffered, they suffered in beautiful language, not in monosyllable as we did in Kansas." After his grandmother's death, Hughes went to live with family friends for several years before rejoining his mother and the family moved to the Fairfax neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio, where he attended Central High School. During high school in Cleveland, Hughes wrote for the school newspaper, edited the yearbook, and began to write his first short stories, poetry, and dramatic plays. His first piece of jazz poetry, When Sue Wears Red, was written while he was in high school. Hughes had a very poor relationship with his father, whom he seldom saw when a child. Upon graduating from high school in June 1920, Hughes went to live with his father in Mexico, hoping to convince him to support his plan to attend Columbia University. His father had hoped Hughes would choose to study at a university abroad and train for a career in engineering. On these grounds, he was willing to provide financial assistance to his son, but did not support his desire to be a writer. Eventually, Hughes and his father came to a compromise. Hughes would study engineering so long as he could attend Columbia. His tuition provided, Hughes left his father after more than a year. While at Columbia in 1921, Hughes managed to maintain a B-plus grade average. He published poetry in the Columbia Daily Spectator under a pen name. He left in 1922 because of racial prejudice among students and teachers. He was denied a room on campus because he was black. Eventually, he settled in Harlem Hall, but he still suffered from racism among his classmates, who still seemed hostile to seeing anyone who did not fit into the WASP category. He was attracted more to the African American people and neighborhoods of Harlem than to his studies, but he continued writing poetry. Harlem was a center of vibrant cultural life. Hughes worked at various odd jobs before serving a brief tenure as a crewman aboard the SS Malone in 1923. In Europe, Hughes left the SS Malone for a temporary stay in Paris before moving to England, where he stayed until November of 1924 when he returned to the United States. After assorted odd jobs, he gained a white-collar employment in 1925 as a personal assistant to historian Carter G. Woodson at the Association of the Study of African American Life and History. As the work demands limited his time for writing, Hughes quit the job and got a position as a busboy at the Wardman Park Hotel. Hughes' earlier works had been published in magazines and was about to be collected into his first book of poetry when he encountered poet Vachel Lindsay, with whom he shared some poems. Impressed, Lindsay publicized his discovery of a new black poet. The following year, Hughes enrolled in Lincoln University, a historically black university in Chester County, Pennsylvania. He joined the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. After Hughes earned a BA degree from Lincoln University in 1929, he returned to New York City. Except for traveling to the Soviet Union and parts of the Caribbean, he lived in Harlem as his primary home for the remainder of his life. On May 22, 1967, Langston Hughes died in the Stuyvesant Polyclinic in New York City at the age of 66 from complications after abdominal surgery related to pancreatic cancer. His ashes are interred beneath a floor medallion in the middle of the foyer at the Schomburg Center of Research in Black Culture in Harlem. I hope that this Black History Spotlight on poet Langston Hughes has been interesting and informative to you guys. Please leave me comments down in the comment section and let me know what you think. I'll leave additional information on Langston Hughes in the description of this video. Please follow me on all my other social media, including my spoken word channel, which is the Purple Diva Den. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, our few peace and blessings from the West Side. Bye, you guys.